Here.
She said.
You're recording this?
Recording.
We'll get started here.
Sorry about
I don't, how do I follow this thing, Lydia? I told
Let's see,
you.
actually.
She does it. Look at screen change.
Okay, but turn around and look. Let's get some. Something good.
Bucket Phil, Melanie, and Jackie, and the team. They've just been amazing. I've just had closings with them today, tomorrow. We've had last month, and they're on top of everything. Like, means so much to have all your I's dotted and all your T's crossed.
I'll second to have them here. Just, if we could just get rid of her husband, no, I'm. Darn, I missed an opportunity. All right, something else, come on, we gotta have a couple more. Bucket fills or something great happened.
When we went to the yard house, I got like the half yard. That was kind of fun.
You're kind of questioning whether that was fun. You had the third one, that would, no. That was fun. You guys gotta remember to come to that. That's
Yeah, it was funny at the table, this gigantic beer.
We did a profile email, quarterly email, and it went out to 1,400 people and got a listening today scheduled. How many are you sending, like, weekly?
Once a quarter is what we,
You send about 1,400 all the time, or?
yeah, and then you get like 250 that are emails not working, whatever. Like, I told, Whitney the other day, I said, if we get one, it's worth it. We got.
That's been, oh yeah,
It looks great.
that's through profile.
Yep, they helped me do it.
Any of you, Kelly in here.
Yeah, they can do all that all that stuff.
That was kind of bucket fill for Kelly. All right, gang,
I got a couple of people, the Desserts, Cope and Dryer and Homer's have all shared listings with us, which is great. Just in being in the office, talking about listings and what we've got and what they've got. So we're making some connections there. And then also Jordan Welly, obviously she's been helpful over the years, but Monday we listed a couple of houses, so we needed a little extra help, because it's just a lot to put a couple on in the same day and all the marketing and stuff. So she stepped back in and got it all kicked out before 4 o'clock. It was great. Thank you.
great. Well, you had to have some help too, because how many miles did you bike?
I think we put on about almost 800.
This is a motor site, Rick is.
Yeah, I didn't like, so I would never bike 8 miles. Without a motor.
Michigan, Upper Peninsula.
Yeah, it was awesome.
All right, one more.
Well,
Lydia,
bucket Phil Heather for holding down the fort while we were all gone.
tell where you were.
I did go to see Beyonce in Vegas. I went to the wrong night, so I missed Destiny's Child, but
no.
it's okay.
I was so excited when I saw that on TV. I thought, oh, Lydia's there.
Was it a surprise thing?
Yeah, so Friday it was just her. Saturday she brought out Shabuzi, Jay-Z, and Destiny's Child.
Oh.
So I was very upset on Saturday. I'm still getting over it.
Did you get on the Jumbotron?
Yeah.
Yeah, I had pretty good.
Else or anybody else? All right, gang. Okay, move the slide. Okay, here's our training calendar.
This is August's training calendar, which is done. Lydia will probably send that out tomorrow.
Yep.
And again, remember, you can click on all the links and register for all the classes. Then when we get registered, it really helps us all out here. We've got mega camp in the middle of the month, but everything go over. So that'll go out tomorrow. Remember, click on all of it. Silver Movie Fridays, Popcorn Fridays, everything going on there. Is there a couple slides that are talking about? We have a Walk Your Plans open house at Christie's. So Christie's new Walk Your Plans is on Tuesday, August 19th from 11 to 12:30. To go a little later, we're going to also learn some about some blueprints, some construction, and that's pretty cool.
Did anybody see her on Twin Cities Live.
Yeah, she was on Twin Cities Live.
Saw it.
I saw the repost of it on.
I saw the repost, yeah.
I forgot all about it.
So, yeah, but it looks pretty cool. They seem pretty excited about it on Twin Cities Live,
You
so.
know what this is, Matt?
I do, it is
pretty
cool.
So we're excited and we're doing that on a Tuesday. So that's in place of any our Tuesday training here. Everyone go there. We're going to have some snacks and some things like that. It should be pretty cool. I think there'll be a lot to learn and a really great thing for your clients. Don't forget Mega Camp is right around the corner. You can still sign up. You can
Yes.
still get flights. You can still get hotels. We'd love to see you there. If anyone interested in Mega Camp, come to me. I can help you register whatever you need.
Right. Is that it? Oh, what's it?
Ooh, you guys save the date. All right.
Oh, December 4th.
Yep, our
Oh, wow.
awesome holiday, party at Birches on the Lake.
We're getting
Coming,
prepared early, I guess.
nope, just save the date. We just want to make sure we know how busy all of your Decembers are. So Thursday, December 4th, save the date, Birches on the Lake again. Remember, it was a great time last year. Last year, I think you all remember, we had the sketch artist. I think we're gonna try to come up with something new or fun. If anyone has any ideas, let us know. But keep that date on your calendar and 6 p.m. apps, drinks, everything should be a good time.
I like that sketch art.
I know.
You know, I look like 140 pounds. Yeah, it was pretty amazing.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
All right. Okay,
Now,
Oh,
I
whoa.
think we've got,
this is unbelievable. I don't know, I'm sure you all know Matt, he's the one that checks all of your contracts. Stand up, Matt, come over here. I've said for years, Matt's my little puppy. Just follows me everywhere. Way back, I was at Basildon where I started. And Matt starts at Basildon, I left. I go to counselor. Matt follows me to counselor, I left. Kind of getting a trend here. I come to KW, we're opening the office, of course, one of the first guys I called is right here. He was teamed with Kristen Christensen and a couple other people. And they were gullible enough to join us. But great guy, he's broker at Edina and our compliance broker, so he's got some fun stuff for us. So please interact with him so he can feel like you really participate, okay? All right, cool. Take it
All
away.
right.
welcome.
All right, thank you. As John said, so I'll call on some of you. I know some of you and I don't know all of you. And as John mentioned, I'm the broker at Edina, compliance broker here, also compliance broker for Elk River. So what that means is that John mentioned, I do look at all your contracts. So when you're submitting something in command and ultimately to the point when you want to get paid, I'm the one that's approving that your Alta and all of those things say get paid. So what we're going to do today, Candy was the one that saw what I'm doing today with all of you, where I did it for another office. And she's the one that termed it Clients Bingo. And I was like, oh, I like that. I hadn't thought of that. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about some of these squares because these are some of the common ones that come up when I'm reviewing documents. And ultimately, they become just good conversation pieces for all of us, just to really help you be better equipped moving forward when it comes to compliance, but also just even some conversations that you're having. Before the meeting, I met Marie and we had a great conversation about something that she's got going on. And literally it ties into this sale of buyer's property. So again, many of these squares will be something that you've either dealt with in the last couple of weeks, or you're going to be dealing with in the weeks ahead. So with that said, I'm going to begin with when it comes to command and when it comes to compliance and checking these things out, you all have really two options. And this Post-it note is here because if you want to, you can type in and leave a note for me. I will tell you, I'm not sure if there's any commercial guys in the room right now. The commercial guys in this office, commercial folks in this office, they're fantastic at leaving me notes. They're exceptional. So they're always going to, and where they go is they go, Matt, commercial, no disclosures, ... Because disclosures from the residential side are required. And so we're looking for those. Mike Weiland and Elka, they're also phenomenal at leaving notes. They leave notes and just get kind of quick heads up. So all of you have that capacity that if you have something going on or something's unique with your transaction, and you might know that it's going to get flagged, from a required aspect, you can leave me a note. And if you have a further question, just call me. So again, what we can do you do a recap email after the team meeting? You do that?
We do, yeah.
Plug in my phone number,
We can do that.
when we do that, my email and phone number.
And you guys, just for when Matt's talking about a note, it's that comment. You know, when you're in command and you're on your documents page. So you're in command, you're on your documents page, and it can be on any page at the top, kind of on the top, it says comment. You can just click on that comment and you can leave a note from Matt, you can leave a note from Lydia or I.
Right.
That's where we can do all of our communication through that. And it's very, but yeah, it says comment, you click on it and that stays with that file, and anyone, it's super nice. It's a little bit of a shortcut. I think Lydia's, because she's so
Yeah, I'll bring
speedy and
it
so amazing. She's gonna quick show us one.
Yeah, it is, and I love what Heather's saying too with it. It is a shortcut. It's a nice little hack, but it's just a great communication line between you and us. And
It is.
it helps kind of increase the efficiency with it, keeps things running.
And so it's that comment right there. You just click on that and you can leave a note. And so that's helpful for all of us. Just put your message here and all of us will check that. You know, can I just throw in one thing?
Please.
This is great for listings too. You know how you guys have like withholds, coming soons, and active? And sometimes you put everything in there and Lydia and I get it and it has everything. If you put please withhold in here, we know exactly what to do with it. If you put, you know, may coming soon, we know exactly what to do with it. So those notes are super helpful for us too.
Very helpful.
Mhm.
So again, and that's where just myself coming out to do this, and I'm sure Heather and Lydia have talked about this too, but command was all set up just to be actually an efficiency for all of us, a communication line for all of us. So how this is going to work today is the way I'm going to force interaction with all of you. And if I don't know you, and you don't right off the bat, like if you don't know me. So what I'm going to do is have you tell me your name first when you pick one of the boxes, and then we'll go from there. But that's how we're going to force you to play along. So I need someone to pick a box here. I don't care which box you pick. And then we're going to talk about it for a little bit related to compliance and literally related to your business. So who's our first candidate to pick a box? All right, thank you. And your name is?
My name is Jason.
Jason, wonderful, Jason. How long have you been here?
6
6 months? Fantastic. Thanks for being the first person. What box, Jason?
LC 119 to 134 PA.
Okay, wonderful. So those of you that are, I have title here, right? So now, Jason, you nailed it, because again, there's a reason why this is in a corner box. There's a reason why Seller Net Sheet's in a corner box. There's a reason why 2025 Forms is in a corner box. We'll tend to spend most time on the corner ones. And so what we're going to do, and Lydia's already prepped for this. So this is literally a great one. Jason, you couldn't have started in a better spot. But 2025 Forms, who in the room knows what's the date when forms change? August what? 1st.
Friday.
Thank you. Yeah, it is literally this Friday. And I've been informed that Kevin already kind of covered the changes, right, for the forms. So you're ready for that. So what's great with Jason's box he chose, some of the things are going to change. We're going to literally pull up the forms. A couple things are going to change with those. Okay. So LC is listing contract 119 and 134. And then PA, of course, is our purchase agreement, line 406. So what we're going to do, and we're probably going to spend 5 to 10 minutes on this. Okay. Because this, out of all the boxes, is probably the most lengthy one as far as conversations between all of us. This will most likely generate some questions for you sitting there too, like, my gosh, this just happened to me a week ago. And, or like I said, it could come up soon. So what we're gonna do, and how we're gonna do this, well, let's just go to the listing contract, Lydia. Okay. So what we're going to do here is here's our listing contract as it states right now. Now, again, there's going to be some changes to our listing contract beginning on Friday, August 1st. But the truth that happens with this is many agents will still be using this one. And you know kind of what year our contract is valid. When you look in the lower left-hand corner here, it says 8/24. So this was updated last year, August 1st. And we're going to see a new one on Friday. Now, again, the leadership team has already got stuff ready to go that your templates and everything is probably just going to automatically load for you come Friday. But you as agents, you'll probably be receiving some of the older ones, after Friday. And sometimes we just need to make sure that parties are aware of the changes. But what we're going to begin with here So I'm just gonna have you go down, so you can see with 119, can you bring the screen down a little bit, Lydia, for me, please? Other way. I do that every time, so when you said, I don't know, I would say down or up, so you're perfect. So 119, and where I'm going here, and these are some of the changes, but again, does anybody have questions around what number I'm putting in 119? And many times people don't, but I will tell you, John, I don't think you were on it, you might have been. But there was a call this Monday, past Monday, with the state association going through the new changes. And like the new changes. So this has been here for a full year. I would say 75% of the questions on that call, that Zoom call on Monday morning were related to this and people still filling this out wrong. And so what that means is, again, the reason why we're playing this with the bingo is this is total broker compensation, but you're literally having a conversation with your seller. And this is a seller's driving it, you're guiding them, but the conversation is around what do they want to pay you and do they want to pay the other party? Right? So sometimes if we go back to when John and I first got together at Counselor, you know, again, I'm not supposed to use percentages. So we're going to do 6 apples. How's that sound? You're all reading what I'm doing?
Yeah.
Nice. So we used to put 6 apples there. And what that meant was I was going to take 3.3 apples for myself on the listing side, and I was going to take 2.7 apples and share them with the buy side. Right? But again, so I put 6 apples there. And then all of a sudden, this was the part that changed last year, 122 to really 124, 125. Because if I go up a little bit, Lydia, now this is where I don't know, see, I'm going the wrong way again. I gotta say down. Sorry. So now this is where I used to, then this is where I would put 2.7 apples, right? Because I'm sharing it, 2.7. And then I also had to check here on 129, the total brokers shall offer cooperating compensation. Well, guess what's changing on Friday? That right there is changing. That's going to be gone. But again, this is how it's always been done. I shouldn't say always, that's the wrong word. You know, years ago, this is how it's been done. Last year, now let's go back to 119, Lydia. Because throughout the year of 24, last fall, and then all of this year, many people were saying, and specifically, Matt, can I just put my 3.3 apples there and nothing else? And the answer is yes, you can do that. Because when we get to 406, which is a purchase agreement, that's a separate contract. And that's where the confusion came. Because what's happening a lot right now is people are putting, well, I'm putting 3.3 apples there, and I'm just seeing what's on line 406 of the PA. Because my seller may have said, now some of you may have experienced this. Well, I'm a seller, and I'm open to compensating the other side. But if they don't ask for it, would that money stay in my pocket? And the answer is yes. What happens if that other side already had the conversation with their buyer, and that other side actually had that buyer compensate the buyer's brokerage? So then again, this is where sometimes people are moving to this. So now, Lydia, how fast can you go between the two? Can you go to 406 real quick? The purchase agreement. Thank you. Look how fast she is. So this is where I told her we're going to toggle between these two. And at any point, Jason, again, I thank you and I appreciate you for starting with this right off the bat. But if there's a question, please raise your hand. Please stop me, because if you have it, someone else in the room's got it. Because on Monday, people who have been doing this for a year had a lot of questions, and the attorneys were like literally like scratching their head, like going, "Seriously, you don't know this?" So on 406, who has worked with an EXP transaction over the past year? Does EXP put their numbers here? Yes, they do. Now, EXP can do that because brokerages can actually make their own policies how they want to actually choose and communicate this. So many times, if I had 3.3 apples, like I said, on my listing contract, and now all of a sudden EXP agent comes in and they just say 2.7 apples, and we're explaining it, right? Everything's fine. Your job as the agent is to explain this and watch this for your seller. Now, recently, we have a kind of a legal situation going on because there was some verbal communication between agents, and the agents agreed to a 2.5 payout. But they didn't do a cooperating broker agreement. Instead, they said to the buying agent, well, just put 2.5 on line 406. So what the agent did, just kind of, I don't know if they were sleep deprived or whatever, but they accidentally put 2.7 apples on line 406. And the listing agent didn't check it, seller signed it, and afterwards, the seller's really upset. But the listing or the buying agents, the listing agent's really upset because they didn't catch it. Now, whose fault is that? Now, when I say false, it's one of those things, but we all work together, but ultimately, it is the responsibility of the listing agent to review said contract and explain it to the seller. Go, this is still a legal situation going on because the difference of the 0.2 apples is $1,400. They did close because there was a contract and we closed, but now they're kind of fighting it out. My point of this is, if you're a listing agent in the room, 406 is still there on the new forms, folks. Now, here's something I'm going to tell you. This is why we're going to spend a little time on this. What I've seen, it says compensation closing, a percentage amount of the selling price or dollar amount. Compliance broker here. What do I see? I see 2.5, 2.7 frequently, apples. I'm not supposed to say percentage, so, and we're being recorded. So, apples. But then I see over here, sometimes a dollar amount. The highest dollar amount I've seen over here, $4.2 million. I love Lydia's face right there. It's terrific. Prior to the $4.2 million, the largest one I saw was $445,000. What buying agents were accidentally doing is they were putting in the sales price, selling price, and they would put that in there. Now, here's what happened in the last year. And I was just telling John before we started the meeting, there's another brokerage, happens to be KW, and I'm just going to leave it at that. I'm very kind of frustrated with them that they were attempting to exercise this. We finally got them to come to their senses and realize in good faith that, you know, they knew what was happening. But what happened in that scenario was there was 2.7 apples, and then this happens a lot. Then somebody puts 0 over here. So then what that brokerage was doing, well, the seller, because this is seller's contributions to buyer's broker's compensation, seller can choose 2.5 apples or they can choose 0. And that brokerage says, we're going to choose 0. The seller's not paying you, and then everybody signed it. I will tell you, after looking at this for probably the last 2 months, probably about 30 to 40% of the time, 0 is there. Guess what they changed on August 1st, coming up Friday? Thank you. Who said that? Lovely. Yes, they changed it because they used to say that, folks. But now they're going back to that. So whichever is greater. So if somebody, because what happened with this other brokerage, it was a KW brokerage, they were saying no. What they were frustrated with was, again, ultimately how things are going in the transaction. And they said, we're just going to choose 0 and we're not going to pay you. So after some due diligence and so forth, ultimately, even the attorney group said, gotten this a lot where some brokerages are threatening not to pay. And then ultimately they get to what they said, what was the good faith? What was the intentions? And if you're really going to have us take you to court, we are going to win because we did have 2.5 apples there. That was the intention. So finally, our friends in Maple Grove, I accidentally said it. Pissed me off.
Full bleep.
It makes me mad because it's a guy, but again, we had to really say, are you seriously going to do this? Then again, because if you seriously are, then you're not working in your best interest of your consumer seller. All of us, no matter what side we're on, we cannot do anything to the detriment of the other party. And that brokerage was doing something to the detriment of the transaction.
Was it the whole, I guess, or one or two, in a couple people? It seems pretty.
It was a particular transaction, Jason, where it was just like one of them, but something didn't go well with the transaction. You know how some things happen. I literally had a call right before the meeting. Oh, they just did the final walkthrough. Buyer found a scratch on the floor. Now they're upset. So then all of a sudden, after everything was done, that's when they said, oh, by the way, we're not going to pay you. So Maureen had a question up, and I'll come to you, Rick.
You do have to put a dollar amount, and I've seen a lot of purchase agreements from EXP agents where they just cross it out. They put 2.7 and then they just cross out the.
Right here? Yep. And that's one way of actually trying to say, disregard this. So you're going to see people cross that out, which is
You're
fine.
allowed to cross it out?
Yes, you
Or
can.
should you put a dollar amount?
Well, no, it's like really either or. So if you're going to do a percentage, do the percentage. I would advise you leave this blank, or people put NA. That's pretty common. But they're fixing that Friday, August 1st, with whichever is greater. So sometimes I see 2.5, apples, which is greater than $10,000 as an example. But sometimes I'll see $10,000 there. And sometimes, honestly, in my head, I'm like, why'd you put $10,000 there? Because that's less than what the apples is, 2.5. But so to answer Maureen's question, yeah, you as the agent, which one do you want? Do you want a dollar amount or do you want a percentage? Put that one in. and then you can line through it or put NA. Helpful? It's
Or
gonna help you on
0.
Friday, because that's gonna help correct things for you.
I had to change a lot of my listing agreements dealing with EXP agents because they couldn't take cooperating brokers' compensation. So then I had to go back and do an amendment. And so then I just started, when I would sit down at the listing table, I would say, okay, we're gonna talk about the fact that you wanna pay out both sides, but it's not gonna come from me, it's gonna come directly from you. Like, I just completely switched up the way I was doing things, because otherwise it was getting paid, it would be paid out twice if I didn't do an amendment.
Okay, did that make sense what Maureen just said? And, okay, thank you. And then again, Rick, is your questions kind of related to this?
Similar.
Okay.
It is, yes. Well, it's
Okay.
related to what you're talking about.
Okay, I'm gonna just finish off her question here. So this is the reason why we're toggling back and forth, folks, because what Maureen just described is what was happening to so many of you. And truth be told, some of you weren't amending your contracts where you actually truthfully should have been amending your contract. So again, a lot of it, can you toggle back, Lydia, to 119? So we just saw there that, and again, we're using EXP as an example, and there's nothing wrong with this because they made a policy that that's how they're writing it. But what Maureen, I'm gonna use Maureen as an example here, that she had a conversation with her seller, and that seller, and they could have had, let's say, 6 apples here, and now they were paying out 2.7, and EXP put 2.7 on 406 that we just saw. But now if we go, correction is again, I need, there you go.
Right there. Yeah, so I was paying it out there.
She was paying it out here.
And then it's also
So the reason why Maureen said she didn't want to pay double is this is paying the brokerage. Purchase agreement is paying directly from seller to buyer's brokerage, 2 separate contracts. So they're paying out 2.7 there. Maureen's correct. She needs to come back and amend her listing contract to, and ultimately she's going to say on 131, we're going to make that 0. So we're not paying that. And sometimes there's a note saying, because the seller has already paid buyer's brokerage on the PA. People sign, in this case, seller is signing, Maureen is signing. Now listing contract is amended, it's up to date, it's current, it's okay. Make sense? Okay. Now the other dilemma that we're seeing is just go back here, and this is the reason, just go back to like 122 to 124, 125. So Maureen also said, she goes, I realize that now I'm having the conversation up front with my seller. What do you want to do? Now, in some cases, because they're anticipating somebody's going to put something on line 406. So that's where 122 to 124 came about. If seller agrees to pay buyer's broker compensation directly to buyer broker, then seller's obligation to pay buyer's broker compensation specified 119, 120 shall be reduced. So if this was 6 apples and they put 2.7 here, and then 2.7 was on line 406, then there's no need to amend it because it's all spelled out. But what happened many times was, this was the new part from 2024, which was confusing. And so now, this is where the conversations are really, seller, what do you want to do? Now, again, it's like when we're on the airplane, put the oxygen mask on yourself first, right? You got the listing, you got the appointment, you take care of you first. You work out whatever your percentage is with your seller and you, KW Minnetonka. And then I see the hand, so just hold on a moment. And so you take care of that. And then some of this still, as I would say, based on Monday's call, you're still going to practice this a little bit. I'm going to go to Rick first and then you, Rick.
Right. Just to make this a little bit easier, I'm just gonna preface this with what I would say to the seller first
Okay.
before I ask the question. So
Yep.
I would say, I'm gonna simplify everything.
Yep.
Okay, so, seller, you're gonna pay a total commission of 6%. Out of that 6%, I'm gonna collect 3.3 as your listing broker. I recommend that you pay out 2.7 to the buyer's broker because of all these reasons. And then we fill this out according to that. So I've got 3.3 coming to me. I got 2.7 going to them. Now, when you go to line 406, well,
Okay.
the first question is, I heard you say, and I just want to confirm that as a compliance broker, when we're not filling something out like the retainer fee, like the additional, not percentage, but the additional amount of sales price, would you want NA in there?
Go back to 406 if you can real quick, Lydia, please.
So 406 then, and this is one of the questions is that, correct me if I'm wrong, but I need either to put in 2.7% there on the PA, or I need a broker compensation agreement between the 2 brokers, one or the other.
Okay,
Otherwise that buyer's agent is not getting paid.
okay. So I love what Rick just did here, but we're gonna do this. Rick's on the listing side, right? You heard through his conversations with the seller that they're gonna do six apples total. Rick's not filling this out. All Rick is doing is he's looking to see how it was filled out from the buyer. So in this case, we're gonna play this out, because if it says NA there from the buying agent, that's fine. It's probably gonna say 0, the way I've seen a lot of them, or it's just gonna be lying through. But it's gonna say 2.7. Now, based on how Rick said this, and that's how we're receiving it, folks. That's it. Now you have a chance now, because now what Rick's gonna do is he's gonna go back and talk to his seller. So jump back to the listing contract, Lydia. You go back to the seller. Now, I received an offer that 406 has 2.7, but that's not how I set things up with my listing contract. Because I was gonna pay it out through broker to broker, cooperating broker agreement. So I'm gonna ask my seller, and this is the question we get oftentimes. Seller will say, what's the easiest? Because I already have an offer that says 2.7 on the PA. What's easiest? Now, many people have kind of defaulted to easiest being the agent just saying, we're gonna modify our listing contract, which is what we just did with Maureen, and we're gonna amend it to take what we have here is 2.7 on 131 down there, Rick. So we had that there to make a total of 6%. We're still gonna get our 3. We're gonna amend it just to make this 0. Otherwise, what you need to do is you need to go back to the PA, you need to go back to the buying agent, you need to do a counter offer. And the counter offer is gonna say line 406 should read 0. And now accompanied with this is a cooperating broker agreement we're sending over to them that is signed by you and signed by them, that's saying 2.7 is gonna go to them. I love it when the title group is just saying, yep, Matt, you got it.
And here's the deal, Matt. The way that I read this 122 to 125 is that as long as I fill that out and put 2.7 there, as a listing agent, it doesn't matter if it's this is done. Because if it's 2.7 on the PA on line 406, then my seller is covered because it says right here, as soon as they pay 2.7 from line 406 on the PA, they don't have to pay me the 2.7. I don't have to do the cooperating broker deal or vice versa. If it doesn't say anything on the purchase agreement, my seller's still paying the 2.7 because it says that cooperating broker payment between the two is 2.7, right? So I shouldn't have to amend anything.
Well, that is just one way of doing it, Rick. So like that's one way you did it. And if you did it, as you're saying, and you're not putting anything on here, go back to 122, Lydia. So you put the 2.7 right there, completely okay, if 2.7 is on line 406 of the PA.
Yep.
If it is,
If it is, but if it's not there,
not on the PA.
if it's not on the PA, then what you've done is now you're just sending 2.7 to them because your seller agreed to this in listing, even if it's not in the PA. You know what I'm saying?
Correct. Like no matter what, every single listing I do, no matter what, is paying all 2.7.
Most people are putting it down on 131, because this is the one where, again, so ultimately where this all kind of really lies, it lies within all of you being listing agents. You need to know this like this and like this. So again, it's kind of like, I was never a quarterback, but I imagine all of a sudden, like, option 1, it's not there. Option 2, it's not there. Option 1 and 2 is the way I normally like to write these things, but all of a sudden they threw something, they gave me a curveball on 406 in the PA, so now I have to respond. And so Rick, you're right, if that's how you're receiving it and reading it in the PA. You just chose one option, a way of doing it. I'm sorry, I don't know your name.
Amanda.
Okay, Amanda, what's your question?
Okay, could you scroll down a little bit, Lydia? Couldn't we just use the 135 other box and say, should buyer's broker be putting like the listing commission in the purchase agreement, the seller is reduced or relieved by the responsibility above, like by whatever you put, 2.7 apples.
Yep.
Can't you just put that there and then you just don't have to amend the listing contract if they ask?
So Amanda, did you ever hear Amanda? Makes sense, Amanda, yes, you can do that, thank you. That's the reason why there is an other, that's the reason why there's a blank line
That
there.
seems like the way, that just seems like the easiest thing, because then you don't have to amend anything ever.
And
For the
it's
listing
helpful,
contract.
definitely helpful there, as far as actually having that there. Some EXP agents have even added verbiage on their PA to basically help you already in the event that you have it filled out this way. So you can actually sign that and actually takes care of that. Maureen.
So are we allowed to, for line 123, also put an NA or a slash through and just put the 2.7 on 124?
Yeah, again, the answer is yes.
Yes.
You can actually on 131, you can put NA or slash through. And if you do this, but you're really gonna want to read what the PA says, line 406, because it's gotta match this. Because here's the other dilemma. Let's say that's 2.7 and the PA says 2.5. Now what?
Seller owes.
Thank you. Seller's gonna owe additional 0.2 there because it was on the listing contract. They paid 2.5 on 406.
Doesn't that just mean you charged more? I mean, it's still what they agreed to pay, so what's the difference?
Right. Now, again, this is the part that gets into that next step where some could say, well, I want to see the buyer's agent, I want to see the buyer's contract to see that it actually, because the buyers can receive whatever they have on their contract or anything less, they can't receive anything more. How many of you worked with Lennar over the year and Lennar is saying that we're paying out, I don't even know what they're paying out right now, 2%, and then they get bonuses, right? That bonus has got to come within your amount on your buyer contract. And if it doesn't, then you need to amend your buyer contract so it actually encompasses that. Otherwise, you can't receive it legally. Okay, Amanda, thank you for saying that about other. That was really good. That's actually one hack that people have used with this to help with this. Jason, you had no idea that the box that you chose is going to be the greatest box of today. Thanks a lot. All right.
One more question.
Yeah.
Has anybody in here dealt with where they, in the listing agreement, their seller agreed to pay out 2.7, but on line 406, the buyer's agent asked for 3%, and then they were in a negotiation where they had to figure that out? What did you do?
No.
Conversation.
You said no.
I love that.
No.
I just asked, what do you want to do? It was like a 30 grand over offer. I was like, what do you want to do? Give it to him. Yeah, so we amended it.
Yeah, that happens quite a bit because the one thing that I saw from a year ago, so when we were talking about, I saw more people receiving 3% on the buy side than ever before. So people literally on the buy side, their commissions went up. And many times it was because of what Maureen just said, they put 3 on there and they got the 0.3 difference or the 0.5 difference. Because at that point, the seller was like, I'm just gonna move forward. Question.
No, and I think what Jason said is perfect. You gotta remember, it's the seller's responsibility on the purchase agreement. That is a contract between them. It's not your job to say, this is what we are or aren't paying out to them. That's another term, just like any other term in the purchase agreement that you should present to the seller. That this is part of what they're asking for. No different if they were asking for closing costs to be contributed towards.
So should we
So it
stop
should be their
calling listing
decision.
agents and asking them what they're, I mean, I almost feel like that's going away.
I think some of that's going away. So what Maureen just said, should we stop calling listing agents to see if they're offering anything? Now, you're talking to an old school guy agent right here, and I would say no, because I know I want my communication between other agents in this industry is so powerful. I consider all of them like lead generation conversations, because I know that how I'm gonna ask, I'm gonna warm up our relationship and where we're at. Because down the road, I'm either gonna be in a multiple with that agent or they're gonna be in a multiple with me, and how I communicate with them now is actually gonna play out well. But many agents are not calling anymore, and they're just automatically, they're basically just saying, the heck with it. I'm just putting, if I'm a buy side, I'm putting it on 406 and I don't care what any of you do. How many of you know Eric Peterson out of Elk River? Anybody know Eric Peterson? Fantastic agent, great agent. He got tired of telling people, because here's what happens. They call and ask if you're doing any cooperating, and you say, yes, we are. We're doing cooperating. We're doing 2.7 apples. Here, by the way, is our cooperating broker agreement, and they send it over to them.
I see that.
And then all of a sudden what happens is that agent that they just said that to puts 2.7 on line 406.
That's what was happening to me.
Yeah, and that happens a lot. So Eric Peterson was like, forget it. I'm just doing 406. You kind of like what Rick said, and kind of you worry about your side, your representation. I'll worry about my side representation. So if I'm a buy side representation, I may put it on 406 because I'm taking care of my client that way, as you said, seller to buyer.
Or else, we just put that up there.
Okay. Here's a cooperating broker agreement. So again, how John and I were instructed at Fazenden and at Counselor way back when, this was where this would come out, because we were instructed, we'll take 6 apples and we'll pay out 2.7, and you're putting 2.7 right there on line 15. Now just go to, yep, thank you. And now we've given permission, we being the brokerages, so we've given permission for Rick Brahma to say, Rick Brahma here signs, and whomever the buying side will sign here, and they're gonna get 2.7 apples through the cooperating broker agreement.
That's also Rick Brahma.
Right, I love that. Both sides.
So if you have that.
Yep.
And the listing contract filled out correctly, you have nothing on 406.
Right. Yep. So this basically is used when you had 119 at 6 and you had 131 at 2.7 or 2.5, and then you accompanied this. The other question I get a lot is, when do I send this? Now, again, I told you this a moment ago in Maureen, I'm really big on actually being like an agent that stands out to the other agent. So if Jason called me and he said, because I already had my conversation like Rick did with my seller saying they're doing 2.7 payout, and then Jason calls me, hey, Matt, by the way, are you guys doing operating? Jason, thanks so much for the call. Love that. I hope your clients do like it. I hope they do right. Yes, we are. By the way, I'm going to send it to you in 30 seconds. And then I send it to him in 30 seconds and he says, holy smokes, Matt's on the ball. I'm going, yeah, I am. And you're going to want to work with me. You all are lead generating with our fellow agents every day. And again, it's so awesome when you see just repeat transactions between us and agents from other brokerages, because they're like, man, I mean, I know this gal right here sitting in the front. She's really good. And those agents at Remax and Edina, they know her. They know her because she's really good. Same thing with a half a dozen of you in the room that I know. So that's cooperating broker agreement. Okay. Any other questions? Colleen?
So there are so many different ways to slice the apple. What is your professional best practice?
Okay.
Like what is the best way for us to do this?
And I'll tell you, I love that question. And that came up again on Monday. And the attorney was like saying, seriously, the best practice is you talking to your client and literally finding out what level of understanding do they have. And really what I do, I had a pastor one time, the pastor said, the goal of communication is acceptance. And I thought, oh, this is really good in our world because we have purchase agreements. That's like acceptance, right? The goal of communication is acceptance. The pastor said, no, the true goal of communication is understanding. Do the parties understand what they just accepted? And many times we have a lot of clients because, again, as a compliance broker, I see how fast agency's done. I see how fast some of the other documents are done. The one that cracks me up all the time is arbitration, because sometimes that's a required document that's not submitted. So I flag it and send it back to you all. And then all of a sudden it's amazing how fast it comes back. And I'm always like, they even talk to the consumer about arbitration? Does the consumer even understand what arbitration means to them in this transaction? So again, that's where, again, to Colleen's point, I'm going to ask the seller and I'm going to read the seller and I'm going to read my buyer. Like, how well do they understand what I'm actually talking? Any of you have teenagers? Yeah. I'm crazy because our oldest just turned 30 on Monday. Our youngest is 6 and we have 6 of them. So again, I don't recommend it. Because I thought I was going to feel younger, but I'm definitely not. I'm creaking and cracking and walking and gray and all kinds of things. The point is, sometimes even our 6-year-old, oh yeah, Grandpa, I understand, I totally understand. And she has no idea. Same thing with our 17-year-old. So again, we got to play it out a little bit. So I love Colleen's question, and the attorney answered it on Monday and said, just please ask your client, what do they want? So the client is, do you want to pay out cooperating broker agreement, or do you want to pay me, your listing brokerage, and do we want to see how it plays out? Because I can fill it out and slice it up any which way. Okay. So, Jason, awesome box. Pull it, just one last thing, because we're going to double up another box super fast here. So you're going to go back to 119, but you're going to go to 116, Lydia, on the listing contract. Because I'm going to ask the room for one of the boxes that says retainer fee. On line 116, it says seller agrees to pay a broker a retainer fee of. How many of you charge a retainer fee? That's pretty much the consensus in most offices. I'm starting to see more people put a retainer fee on there. And here's the reason why. Because in the nature of where we're at right now, you sometimes a seller say to you, and it's just not working. And again, this is where Jake always asks that question when we fill out the economic model and we say, what's your conversion? And you're like, well, it's 100%. And so you're like, okay, out of your last 10 listings, did you close them all? And then like, well, no, one person did this and one person did this. So I'm beginning to see a number in here. Now, again, how much are you paying for photos? Probably at least $500, right? So I'm seeing some people, they're coming to me saying, Matt, how do I get money from my seller if They then said after 45 days or 30 days or 90 days, it's just not working out anymore. And I paid for pictures, I paid for staging, I paid for all these different things. And I said, did you do a retainer fee? Because this is always zero. And I say always because I just asked the room and not one of you raised your hand. But if you want to actually start running your business in a way to actually compensate yourself for the work that you've done, you may want to consider 116. And those of you that actually really communicate this well to your clients, you're going to realize that actually this is a great way to do business. And that's the reason why that's always been in there. So that's retainer fee. We did the upper box. Let's go back to the boxes.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, you can.
If it closes and you're getting your 3.3 apples,
Yep.
are you getting a retainer fee in addition?
So the retainer fee comes at the beginning.
At the beginning.
It comes at the beginning. And since Heather asked the question, so let's say the retainer fee is $1,500. I collect that $1,500. It's made out to Keller Williams and I give it to Heather. And it actually goes into the account and actually it's setting up for set address. But then all of a sudden, if they exit and they cancel and so forth, then that retainer fee comes back to be $1,500 of compensation to me. Now Heather's going to talk to me. And now we have to look to see whether I've capped or not. Because if I haven't capped, then you're going to take out the percentage that you need to take out of the $1,500. But let's say I capped, Heather will then write me a check for $1,500, which helps to compensate my expenses that I did for the initial part of the listing.
And then Matt, at the end, if it closes, if you had received that retainer fee, that goes against
Yep.
the total.
Yep. So it's written there. If you read the full paragraph, it's actually deducted from your total commission. Yep. Good job. Great question. I will say to all of you, these are the form changes starting Friday. Jake's really big on accountability groups. He's probably been in here talking about 411s and so forth. What we're talking about today is similar to what I tell people all the time in the 411. Put a big rock item on your 411 to say, take an hour and just review some of the agreements, some of the forms, take time just to reread them. And again, it's perfect time of year to do that because these are all the changes happening Friday. All right, question, and I'm sorry, I know you're Great North, but I don't know your name.
Name's Jackie.
Hey, Jackie, thanks.
How would you then express that to title that you pre-collected that retainer fee so that they don't get charged?
Yep. Great. Oh, gosh, Jackie, thank you so much. And this gets back to that whole communication, why people like to work with me. Because even as I actually collected the retainer fee, I'm going to talk to my title person right away and just say, because we're partnered on this, because we've informed our title people, hey, we're just beginning this process. But by the way, you know what? I took a $1,500 retainer fee on this one. So you keep a note of it. But now fast forward to now we're closing, and I'm going to remind title at that point. You still recall that I took $1,500 in. Ultimately, Heather's holding it because she has to hold it until we either have a cancellation or we have a closing. Thanks, Jackie. Okay, is this working out okay? Okay. All right, there's a couple other really good ones here. I'm gonna jump in. Jason nailed it by actually picking this one first. So I'm gonna go to the upper left one. Seller net sheet. This is a fun one. This is what a net sheet looks like. Okay? Now, I think I was probably in this market center some time back saying, again, even Heather, all the people, John was a compliance broker before, saying on the listing side, it's required to do a net sheet. Now, what was missed sometimes when the net sheet was submitted, what was missed was this little part right down here in yellow where it's signature from seller. Why do we want a signature? What did I just tell you the pastor said? Well, do we have acceptance? No, we now have understanding because the seller signed it. Okay, last year we had a lawsuit, right? Some consumers were like, hey, they didn't disclose to me how much they were getting paid, and I want now some of that money. There was a lot of consumers that actually received notes from the whole big thing. So we had an agent, Steve Schneeberger. I love actually talking about real people. So does anybody know Steve Schneeberger? Fantastic agent out of the Edina office. Fantastic agent, like great agent. And part of the reason why I'm doing this is what I just told you. You may come into a transaction with Steve Schneeberger coming up and you'll be grateful you did because he's that good. Okay? So Steve has this client who actually gives Steve a review saying Steve did an excellent job. But then said client, and I won't use his name, receives a note card in the mail saying you should file a lawsuit against your agent because you may get some money. So said client decides to file a suit against Steve. And so we go to court. How many have been to conciliation court? Anybody been to conciliation court?
Not for real estate, but yes.
Yeah. Now they just do it on Zoom, so it's a little bit more efficient now, it's on Zoom, but they throw you to what they call a breakout room. They used to say downtown, they would say, just go out in the hallway, see if you can work this out, because the judge doesn't want to decide it. So we talked to said consumer client, and Steve's like telling the client, I'm really surprised that we're here because you gave me a 5-star review, and now we're here, you're asking for more money. And they client, well, I got this card in the mail, and they said I might be able to get money from my agent. Steve helped this guy get $30,000 over his list price as well, too. So Steve says, by the way, when the judge gets in the room, I'm going to inform the judge all the documents that you signed, listing contract, all those things, and specifically I'm going to show the judge the net sheet that you signed. So fast forward, he doesn't want to drop it at this point. Judge gets on, we're on Zoom. Judge goes, Steve, do you by chance have a net sheet signed by your seller? And Steve says, yep, I do. Here it is. I submitted it as far as evidence. Judge goes, congratulations, Steve, you're done. This is dismissed. Point of this story is, if your net sheet's not signed by your seller, I will return it as your compliance broker, asking you to get it signed. If I didn't return it yesterday or last year, I'm putting you on notice that I'm going to return it now. Sound good? Okay, somebody else pick one. We did retainer fee. We did this one up here. We did net sheet. Oh, arbitration.
Can I say
Arbitration.
something about the seller net sheet?
What's that?
The seller net sheet is not a required document when you're uploading your listing. It's only required when you're submitting it, which means that you don't have to tell the seller upfront, which I think that should be changed in command. That should be required.
Yeah, I agree. That could be great, Amanda.
And I think it used to be, at least at the Lakes office, it was.
Us making an
It's not,
adjustment.
it should be required.
Yeah, because I would say, I love that, Amanda, because I would say all of you as listing agents in your presentation, and John will get a kick out of this, John in the room. This is my net sheet from Fazenden 25 years ago. And I had agents, they said to me, Matt, why do you highlight listing commission and selling commission? Why do you highlight that? I said, I highlight it so the seller can see the largest expense that they have in actually doing this transaction. Thank you, Amanda. Maureen.
I was just gonna say along the lines of what Amanda said, I think the same thing in terms of the order for you've got it up there, compensation disclosure. If you read the wording of the compensation disclosure, it says, we signed this prior to writing a purchase agreement. And I've made that mistake where I've had to backpedal afterwards and have my buyers sign it after we wrote a purchase agreement, and it needs to be signed.
Yep. And again, so another thing on that, so both of them, which are great, but it says right at the top here, estimated net sheet. Sometimes it says preliminary net sheet, estimated. And these are estimates, but they will protect you in court.
Well, I pre-qual my listing appointments, and I ask them what the lowest they would consider selling their house is. And I bring the net sheet with that in there, with all the commissions, with the 2.7 for everyone else. So going back to when you talk about paying them out, I have mine on there. That's what I put on my listing contract, what I'm getting paid. And I show them, this is a typical range that you're gonna see. We can negotiate up and down from here, but just expect this and have them sign it there so that they know it upfront. It helps with both those conversations.
It really does. Helps with both of them. I love that. Thank you. Okay, I just looked at the clock. I know Heather was like, oh, we had no problem because the interaction.
I know.
So, but again, I want to be respectful of the time. I can go through some of these really fast. Jason said arbitration again. The reason why this one's on here, arbitration again is a required document, compliance wise. If you don't have it, I do kick it back to you to say, we need it. I'm not looking to see whether or not you signed it and the other party signed it. We all know that all four parties, who are the four parties? You, the agent, the other agent, the seller and the buyer, they all have to sign to have arbitration be working. The question I have for all of you today, what's the limit, dollar amount limit that we can actually do arbitration? It changed this last year. They may know that dollar amount limit. I got 15,000 over here. Do I have anything else? Because this is one of the things that I see. I still see a lot of arbitration ones come in saying 15,000. It did change to 20,000. So again, if you don't have the uploaded or updated $20,000 arbitration document, you may want to include that. It doesn't hurt that you're still using the 15,000 one. It's just that if you go to arbitration and play that out as one of the options, then again, just so you all know, if it's because using this 15 and 20 as an example, let's say it's 15,000, which is a dispute between parties. And all of a sudden they want to do arbitration because 20,000 is now the threshold. They're just going to send you to conciliation court because it's 15. Anything less than 20,000 right now, even if you agree to arbitration, you will go to court and not do arbitration. So everyone understands that arbitration is above 20,000, right? Question, Amanda.
Not a question. The MLS has a nice little pamphlet on arbitration, just like it does lead-based paint that we're all supposed to send to our clients, but none of us do. But for arbitration, it's nice because then it relieves you of explaining it in case you get something wrong.
Amanda, I didn't know you prior to right now. I love what she is saying. Because even if you go to the addendum, it goes to NCDS, National Center of Dispute Solution, that's where you go. That's the website that's given. If you go there, they have a wonderful pamphlet in there too, that if you want to kind of be a top-notch agent, you provide that pamphlet to your party before. So then all of a sudden, when you're going to do the addendum, you say, you've already read the pamphlet, right? And Amanda just said MLS provides one as well too. So great. So you don't have to explain it because many times they'll say, I don't know, Matt, what do you think about arbitration? Should I do it? Which gets back to Colleen's question, is like, you seller, you buyer, you need to understand it because it's your call what you want to do.
Is Butler in the room?
Butler's in the room.
Okay, so Butler told me specifically and clearly and precisely, and I'm gonna quote you from the past. I am not an attorney and therefore I cannot advise you regarding arbitration. If you want, read the document, and if you're looking for advice, please consult an attorney, period. Like we cannot advise on arbitration. Is that accurate?
Wonderful counsel, wonderful advice.
We shouldn't be explaining it to our clients.
Well, again, because the way I explain it is it's one of the ways to handle a dispute. But again, if they need to know more about it and they didn't read the pamphlet, then they should talk to an attorney. And if you talk to attorneys, again, John and I know a few of them, but one of them that we work with frequently, he's completely against arbitration because when you go do arbitration, it takes him out of the game. But you'll meet another attorney who says, I think arbitration is wonderful. But to Rick's point, if the consumer doesn't really understand, advise them to talk to an attorney. Okay, so that's arbitration. Anything else in arbitration? I gotta go fast here because your interaction's been great. The time is, agent disclosure. This comes up frequently, but sometimes we don't know this. Any of you selling your residence that you live in, or any of you selling a property that you are an investor in. So you purchase an investment property, you've never lived there. Because you're a licensed agent, are you required to do full disclosure or alternative disclosure?
Full.
Thank you. It is full disclosure.
Always full.
So what happens in this case is many times we'll see an agent, they'll just sign an alternative. And it mainly happens when they're the investor. Mainly happens, they bought an investment property, now they're going to sell the said property. I've never lived there, I've never done anything, I'm just an investor, and they fill out an alternative. Because they are licensed, that's not our rule, that's Department of Commerce rule. That they need to do a full disclosure. They're a licensed agent. Okay. TCPA.
Can I ask a follow-up question on that one?
Yes, Jason.
You are representing, let's say, your father or your sister, a relative in a buy side. You have to disclose that.
Yep. Did you just hear Jason's question? So no matter who you're assisting, you said blood relative, family. I honestly, even though if it's my friend, I disclose it even if it's my friend. The reason why, they want to know if that disclosure, because again, now might I assist my friend greater than someone that I don't really know? Commerce, hopefully not. Thank you, Jason. The Commerce says you might, right? So then you need to disclose that you're a licensed agent. So I just kind of say, if it's a friend, family, then I disclose it. You're never going to be harmed if you disclose, folks. I should say never be harmed. You got a better chance of actually being understood. I was just going to cover TCPA. Does everybody know what TCPA is from a compliance standpoint? Y'all know what that is? Okay. You all have fun with this. You're going to have fun with this because if y'all listened to the MREA podcast last week, they talked about AI. It's a wonderful podcast. Go to ChatGPT later and ask them about TCPA, and they're going to tell you about the guidelines. Ultimately, this is the do not call list. But there's some guidelines. Even when I went to it, I honestly forgot that the calling hours are 8 a.m. till 9 p.m. Okay? And then it goes through all the different things, but ultimately, from a standpoint of a brokerage, compliance-wise, you folks cannot be calling anybody that's on a do not call list. So again, and they also don't like the use of robo dialers, all those kinds of things. So again, it's your kind of, piece of the puzzle of being an agent. You need to be informed on this, so you're protected yourself, but then the brokerage is protected as well. Okay, we've hit the top row. We've hit TCPA. Compensation disclosure, we touched on it briefly when we actually talked about cooperating broker agreement. That's a required one. Anytime you are with a buyer, anytime you're representing a buyer, you need to have a compensation disclosure. Even if on 406, the seller agreed to pay the buyer, buyer agent, directly on the purchase agreement, I still need to actually fill out a compensation disclosure so that consumer buyer knows how I'm getting paid and where I'm getting paid. Clear? Jackie?
And send that to title, it's very helpful.
This is what's great. See what's going on now, the communication channel with title. They're all smiling like, yeah, if you send it to me, it is really helpful. Title is like your inspector. Title is like we're all on the same team. We're in a transaction. We're really teammates. So do that. Okay, retainer fee we covered, 2025 forms we've covered, sale of buyer's property. I just want to touch on this one because Maureen and I were talking about this one earlier. This is one of the changes that's happening Friday. Those of you, any of you have actually submitted an offer recently in the last 3 months where you submitted an offer for your buyer subject to the sale of their other property. Then we done that. We're seeing more of them. We're seeing more of them. Why? Because actually our listing inventory is actually increasing, which is great. But now some of the buyers are like, gosh, I want to do it, but I can't do it without selling this one. So I have to attach this addendum, this contingency addendum. So one thing to point out with this, it used to say business days. So whatever days you chose, if it was 2 days, like 48 hours, or 3 days, but it used to say business days. So if someone actually did that and they called the contingency on a Friday, business days it didn't then go again until Monday. On Friday, this Friday, August 1st, they're making a change to say calendar days. And so again, whatever your days are in there, 2 days, 3 days, whatever it may be, it's gonna be calendar days. And so calendar days are literally every day of the calendar, even including holidays and weekends.
Well, how long you have to sit and then like.
Yeah, it's whatever's in there selected here, but it's gonna be calendar days for both. So great question, but that's one of the things there. And another thing I'll tell you about sale of buyer's property, and some of you get this, because I get this all the time. Because they're calling me, Matt, we did this and the seller's now gonna call the contingency and now we have to perform in like, say, 2 days. You buyer agents, make sure you tell them that if you're doing this, there's a likely chance, a very good chance that they're gonna be bumped. And the only way they can actually provide proof now, because they changed this was changed years ago. They have to have a contract on their property and it has to be through inspection. The only contingency can be financing. Used to be that actually they could actually do that contingency and then we could also say, oh, now my buyer can actually perform without selling their backup house. It's no longer that way. So if I'm a listing agent and I say, Maureen, she submitted me one, I'm going to tell Maureen at the time I accept her contingency, Maureen, you seem like a great agent. I hope you counseled your buyers well because my job is representing the seller. And I truthfully, I like you and I respect you, but I'm honestly I'm going to bump you. And I'm going to tell her that right out of the gate. So that when I do call the contingency, she's not shocked. Because those contingencies are being called. And that's where, again, if you're not familiar with it right now, become familiar with it because we're seeing more of them to the nature of our market. Maureen.
So once that buyer's property is under contract and through inspection and the only contingency left for them is financing, then would the seller then at that point be pending?
Yeah, so they'll go, and actually, I don't,
You would have to remove
There
the
was some.
well, you really, but can you pull up the purchase agreement again, Lydia? Because there's a spot on here where it moves on the purchase agreement to Maurice, and what I'm trying to think of what line item it is.
202.
What was it?
202.
Thank you. Go to 202, please, on the purchase agreement. Okay. Yeah, okay, just go down a little bit more so we can see more of the headline of these three. Otherwise, thank you. Sale of buyer's property. So what happens is what Maureen said, they did make it through inspection, they're financing through that. Now we're just only subject to our financing. So now it becomes number 2. And this purchase agreement is contingent upon a successful closing of the buyer's property located. So we automatically shift to number 2. Now, here's the one thing to understand. Now, this happens too, which sometimes is sad, which we don't like, and it's a bummer. But if you read right down here, If for any reason this one doesn't now close, sometimes this happens, then that earnest money is gonna go back to the buyer, even though now it's been tied up on the market for, could be 60 days, could be 70 days, no matter what it is. But if they were able to, the contingency was called, the buying agent, Maureen in this case, provided documentation that they were through inspection, only contingent about financing. She informed the listing agent, now we've automatically moved to 202 number 2. And you don't need to actually amend this and check that, because you've automatically moved there, you provided the documentation. Now you're just waiting for closing.
So in the event that the contingency is not called by the listing agent, right? But we're trying to sell our client's house, so we get to that point that is past inspection. We send them that documentation. And what documentation are we sending them that proves that our contract is past inspection?
Yeah.
We send them a executed inspection contingency addendum?
Yeah, and that's just it. You're at this point, what Rick is saying is, he's just trying to prove that we passed the contingency time frame of even the inspection. This is where parties need to communicate and work on that, but you can send a kind of you create your document saying we're past it. This is the date we all agreed to in the PA. We're past it now, and now ultimately we need to sign a cancellation. Because if we're past it and we haven't relieved that contingency.
Well, what I'm saying is that the backup house gets under so first of all, I sign it like this. So the number 3, 211, 3 is checked. Cause I gotta sell I'm sorry, 1 is checked, sorry.
Yep.
1 is checked, and now my client's house is on the market.
Yep.
The backup house goes under contract, and we have a 3-day inspection window. 3 days later, it's no longer, contingent upon the inspection. So now my client's purchase of this house moves from 199 to 202, right?
Yeah.
And so one clarification I need, at that point, the listing agent of the house my client's buying cannot, or the seller cannot bump us
Correct.
when we move to 202. And to move to 202, I'm just sending them something that proves that the backup house is past inspection.
You can just send them the
Okay.
pending listing.
Yeah.
I mean, they'd have the address. They could just look up the pending
Yeah.
listing.
That's it. Oftentimes they'll do that, and sometimes they'll come to you, sometimes it's a call initially, and then it's just, again, we're through it. They might include a text message where actually that buyer of the backup house says, buyer's agent says, yep, we're all good, buyer's good. And then we send the pending listing, and then you're good. But Rick said something I want you all to understand, which I appreciate. He said, at that point, then, once we move to here, yes, the seller can no longer bump you. You are good to go.
That's huge.
Does the status actually change on Amazon?
It's supposed to.
So you're not waiting until that.
There's no more
closes
contingency,
before-
yeah.
Right. Now, this is what I love. It's supposed to change, but here's what happens. There are some agents out there in our industry, in our field, that will still try and say, oh, I don't know if it's still gonna close. And they drag their feet to actually make that change. And then all of a sudden, if they're not making that change, you can make a call to MLS and you can actually provide proof. And then they will actually call them in a very nice way. Hey, Bob, just so we know an address, whatever, you need to make that change. Otherwise, you're gonna be fine. So that's what we need to do. Maureen, and then,
But that if there was a cancellation and they didn't sell it, that they, earnest money automatically goes to the buyer.
Yep.
I had, for the longest time, been so confused. What is the point of having earnest money to begin with if it doesn't? What is the point if it's never going to be given to the seller as a security blanket?
Well,
for,
it is.
You know, we
It is if
waited
they
for you to
change
sell
the-
your house. We've waited all this time. We pulled our house from the, like,
Ways to
it's
give
called
it to the
earnest
seller.
money. Like, it's just crazy.
It's like if they change their mind, I mean, it protects the buyer if something tragic happens to them, but it's like if they change their mind for whatever reason, then the seller.
I just feel like there's
Maureen,
so
just
many
to,
ways
just
for
to
buyers
simplify,
to get their earnest
the one thing that I've always told everybody when with relation to earnest money is that it's highly unlikely the seller is gonna end up with the earnest money,
Okay.
but here's where they would. If we can prove that the buyer backed out for no particular reason, you're gonna get the earnest money. But understand, you've just signed a contract that has a finance contingency in it. It has an inspection contingency in it. And with that comes all kinds of opportunities for the buyer to get the earnest money back within those contingencies.
Okay.
So it is there though, if someone changes their mind, and they do. I mean, it does happen where they don't have a legitimate reason for backing out, or you're beyond the finance contingency. Somebody writes a cash, somebody says, hey, earnest money, and this is what you can do. You sound like you're a little assertive when it comes to earnest money. So I would write in there that after the appraisal clears, This money becomes non-refundable because you don't want someone to back out.
Are you ever as a listing agent requiring when a offer comes through, or if you're in a multiple offer situation, to say, hey, I want it to be non-refundable or anything?
You can ask them to, you know, but I think you also want to play fair. I would just say at a certain point in the transaction, you know, so if they have to be contingent on
You can
finance.
offer it as a buyer's agent to make your offer better than anybody else's.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Colleen, I'll come back to you. I think it was Amanda. Amanda, you're up.
Okay, so most buyer's agents are not taking their clients to anything that's contingent, and most buyers aren't asking to see anything contingent. And I don't even know if they can see why it's contingent. But as a listing agent, can you put in the public remarks that there's a contingency based on the sale of another property to encourage buyers, like just consumers, to kind of like push their agent to see it? Is that like unethical? Is that, I mean, because I guess we're working in the best interest of our client, the seller, so.
Right. So to quickly answer Amanda's, I would double check with rules and regs. You can put that in agent remarks.
Right.
But in public remarks, they're a lot more strict on that because of actually, that's more of an incentive, what you're doing there. Incentives gotta be specifically spelled out. So I would just contact rules and regulations to see if you can say it that way. I don't think that you can.
What, who's it in, what do you mean, an incentive
Meaning that, because what you're trying to do is.
to
you're trying
drive
get-
away from the other?
You're trying to get people to actually see it, incentivize to see it.
I think it's more so that buyers understand versus just seeing it's yellow, it's not green. And like still showing their buyer's agent that they're interested.
Yeah, no, I hear what
Cause
you're
you can
saying.
still show it.
Absolutely. And if I was a
So,
buying agent,
I do that.
what's that?
I do that.
Yeah.
And I talk with my buyers, and especially when we're in tough price points, I tell them, I will add homes that have contingencies on them. Either an inspection contingency or the S, which is sale of another property. Please know that those already have an accepted offer. It is unlikely that you will be able to get it. However, you can go see it and I can talk with that agent about if something is not going right, please reach out to us and we will do something.
But that's only what you control as a buyer's agent and most people do it. So I'm saying from the listing agent side.
Just have to make sure that you have the correct statuses and hope that, then
Right.
you know that good agents are gonna show your house. You don't wanna deal with the agents who don't understand.
Yeah, I just don't wanna like go off of hopes, dreams. I just
Right.
wanna,
It's true.
like, I just wanna explicitly, if we can explicitly put that in public remarks.
I don't know that can be in
No.
public.
John's saying no.
I know, that's why I said no too, but you can call it to see, but I don't think you can either. Agent remarks, yes. Colleen,
Conversation on, earnest money not being refundable, is that changed by the, line with the underwritten agreement?
That's why they need a good agent.
So I forgot what line it is on the purchase agreement, but when you say, we want to know when, like, they're just saying buyer would get earnest money or seller would get money. There's a part for what happens after underwriting.
Hopefully they don't.
are you talking about the written statement sections? Yeah.
So I usually say that the buyer gets it before the underwritten statement, and after that, I tell my buyers, you're gonna, if they have to remarket their home.
Yep.
But does that change this?
Nope.
So they could still get their earnest money back?
I was gonna get earnest money if this thing doesn't go.
Okay.
Yep. And that's one thing, like to Maureen's point, and some of you, Minnesota is a very friendly state to buyers.
Yeah.
Very friendly state, specifically when it comes to earnest money. And I like that the conversation, Maureen, was a little bit that you can actually have that non-refundable, you can have some of those conversations. Many buying agents really respect and appreciate great listing agents who actually say, this is why it's gonna be non-refundable. And actually having those conversations. So it's really good. Okay, helpful?
Yes.
Okay, so here's what I would do when Lydia does the recap. She'll include just the squares here. And if you're not real familiar with some of those squares, just take some time to go back and look at them. And in the breach of contract one, just so you know, we had an Edina agent just call me literally right before the meeting today. They're supposed to close today. They had walked through yesterday. This is the scratch floor one I was just telling you about. This is a real example. So what happens is the agent said, what happens if we don't close today? And that's where the term breach comes in. So we actually have a breach, meaning actually the contract didn't close. So oftentimes people say, is it null and void? Can I go resell it? The answer is not quite yet because we have a breach. The question that the attorneys will ask is, Does the buyer still want the property? Does the seller still want to sell the property? If those intentions are still there, they have to work out said breach, meaning they have to come to an agreement. In this case, they have to actually resolve whatever it is with the scratch in the floor. Okay? The only way they can get out of said breach is they need to sign a cancellation. Okay? That's kind of how the breaches work. So again, sometimes do we have a breach of contract is if someone didn't submit the earnest money in time. How long do you have to submit earnest money? 48 hours. How many times does it happen after that, Heather? Title, a lot. So many times right away out of the gate, we have a breach of contract, bless you, because we didn't get earnest money in time. But the intention is still there. So ultimately we collect the earnest money. When we get the earnest money, we keep our contract together. But that's really the goal. So sometimes that's the best question. What was the original goal? And that was actually sell us property to this party and this party. Okay, we are after 12. You've all been fantastic. Again, you're going to have my number and my email. If you want to call me, certainly welcome a call. Jot a note down in compliance. Again, hopefully that was helpful.
Thank you.
One thing good stuff, we would go over, you guys are hungry.
All right.
Well, before we, any wants and needs, what do you want to bring up? I have a need, I have a young couple looking for a home in Hopkins or St. Louis Park. Their price range is $450 to $550. If anybody has anything coming up in the next month, everything we're looking at is going pretty quick. So if you guys have anything, shoot them to Jason Dunn.
I have buyers who are looking within 20-minute drive of Methodist Hospital. They would like a 4+ bedroom split with 2 up, 2 down. Ones are, so.
What are you gonna drive during rush hour or during?
So she's an on-call and needs to be going to Methodist in the evening, so she's opposite way of traffic. So that's like Brooklyn Park, some edges of Fridley, Crystal, New Hope. They do eastern edges of Plymouth. They want to stay north of the river, so they're looking more Methodist north, 450 and under. And then I have a cute little investment property in St. Cloud that's gonna go on the market. Has a current rental license, 2 bedrooms, 1 bath. 139. So that's gonna go on this afternoon.
We have a buyer coming to town this Friday. It doesn't need to be available this Friday. We're starting our search very active. Under $1 million, we're looking for Wayzata, Minnetonka schools, Edina schools, and Eden Prairie. I'm looking for a minimum 4-bed, 3-bath, 2-car. Really larger than those, but can be a 4-bed, 3-bath, 2-car minimum. Up to $1 million in those school districts. So, be amazing.
Anything else?
We have a townhome in Shakopee that's coming back on the market tomorrow. We dropped it to $50, really cute. Small kitchen, but great price point. We have a single family in Dayton that just went on yesterday. Have one in Victoria at 625-ish going on next week. And we have one in Laconia, single family, 615 going on next week. And then we have a big one in Wayzata coming, or Medina technically coming on at 1.4 in beginning of. Do you have anyone looking for luxury in Medina? Great property, 1.4, it's a dated home, but great price to pay for that.
All right, get all of them to Lydia. She'll shoot them out there. Great day.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you.